Muhammadur Rasulullah.
Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to today's program, Journey to Islam. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Association is now well known all over the globe due to its peaceful message. Every year, thousands of people join Islam Ahmadiyya, some suffering extreme difficulties along the way. Join us and find out why people want to be part of Islam Ahmadiyya, what makes them want to be part of this community. On this program, you'll be hearing inspirational stories firsthand by people who have converted to Islam Ahmadiyya. On today's program, we have a missionary, Tahir Shelby, who has come to share his story with us, who was not a Muslim before. He has quite graciously agreed to share his story with us today. Assalamu alaikum, Tahir Shelby.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.
Welcome to today's program. How do you feel today?
Alhamdulillah, yes, fine. Pleasure to be here.
Can you give us a bit of your childhood? How was your childhood like in terms of religion?
In terms of religion, I wasn't very religious. As I grew up in the Church of England faith. I used to go to the church very often, but not really for the right reasons. I used to go there to sing in the choir. I used to go for the church club, mainly to play football and other activities. And I used to go actually to the Cub Scouts and the Sea Scouts, which had the base on the church grounds. So I was often in the church or around the church, playing around the church, but not really as a worshipper. And I wasn't really a believer. I didn't disbelieve in God. I just didn't feel the need to believe in God. I was more lost in the pleasures of the world. And that went on throughout my childhood.
As you grew up, did your views about God change?
Not as I was growing up. I remember when I was about maybe 16, one of my school friends from primary school met me in the street, and he was a born-again Christian, and he started preaching to me. And I remember running away very, very quickly, making an excuse and just leaving. So for a long time, I wasn't interested in talking about religion or having anything to do with religion, much to do with the youngsters of today as well. It wasn't until about 18, 19 when I first started coming into religion.
Why were you not interested in talking about religion?
I was more interested in the world. I thought, if there's a God, I'll worry about God when I die. This is the time for living. And, you know, the pleasures of the world was there. So I was enjoying the pleasures of the world, and I was having fun doing it. So religion had no part. To me, religion was very restrictive. And why should I live by those rules? I wanted to be free. I wanted to enjoy life. And so that was my attitude in those days.
Right. So at what point in time did your mind change?
Well, what happened actually, one time there was a group of us, and one of the people was a Muslim. I didn't know, well, an Asian, let's say. And just to make conversation, really, I was just asking that, what is this about arranged marriages? And why don't Asians mix like everybody else mixes? So it was, like I say, just conversation. I wasn't really interested in the answers, but just what to speak about, and this is what I chose to speak about. But that person, instead of answering the questions, gave me a book, which was the Philosophy and Teachings of Islam. Now, in those days, I didn't read books, and especially books on religion.
Right.
So the last thing I wanted was a book on religion, and especially about Islam.
Right.
But I didn't want to upset the person, so I thought, okay, I'll read the first page, I'll read the last page, and then I'll pass it back, and then I can move on with my life.
Right.
But what happened, I started reading the book. I'd done a Philosophy and Teachings. It's a deep book, I'm sure you've read it. In the beginning, it talks about the different stages. And at the lowest stage, he is an animal. He just eats when he's hungry. He sleeps when he's tired. He drinks when he's thirsty. And of course, I identify myself with that lowest stage.
Right.
So no one wants to be called an animal. So that hurt, and that made me want to read more.
Right.
The problem with the book Philosophy and Teachings of Islam, it's an excellent book, but it's very, very deep.
Deep.
And as I said, I wasn't a book reader.
Yeah.
So I would start reading it and I would get interested in this. This was all new stuff for me. But very soon my eyes started getting tired. And after reading about 10 pages or so, I had to put the book down. So I put it down and said, okay, tomorrow I'll read it again. But then I'll get lost in the world.
Right.
And when I had nothing to do, then I started searching, where's that book again? So I found the book and get into it again. I thought, this is fantastic. But the same thing kept happening. My eyes get tired, I put it down, and then get lost in the world. So it took at least 3, 4, 5 months before I completed the book.
Right.
But after reading that book, now my whole outlook in religion had changed. And now I wanted to know more. So instead of just giving the book back, I went back to that person and said, give me some other books. And so I started reading more and more and more until I started practicing Islam.
So how would you say your journey to religion started then?
Well, as I said, it was through that book, but I mean, mainly what the book was doing was it was making me question. Instead of just living the world, now it was making me question that why am I living the world? How am I acting? How am I behaving? And on the moral side, alhamdulillah, my mother brought me up very well. So morality, I was a good person, but I just enjoyed life. But now it was making me question about what I was doing and why I was doing it. And it hit many of the questions that I had in life, that we're just going aimlessly through life. There must be more to life than this. And so it started giving me that ideas, that purpose that I was looking for.
Right.
And so the more I was reading it, the more I was identifying with not only my poor state, but the poor state all around me, and how I need to change it. Why have I settled for this life? What's it bringing me? This book was opening up more ways. Find out about God. Develop your relationship with God. And so it opened up that for me. It brought God into my life.
Right. So when it opened your eyes to God, so to speak, why didn't you go to, say, Christianity to find out more about God? Because you were born a Christian.
Well, good point. But Christianity hadn't done anything for me. I used to go to Sunday school and things like this.
Yeah.
But there were issues I had, which wasn't getting solved with Christianity.
Yeah.
I mean, I know in Ahmadiyyat we often feel that every Christian believes that Jesus is God. But the reality is that this is not the case.
Right.
Most Christians don't believe that Jesus is a God. Yes, once you start examining it from an Ahmadiyya point of view, then you can see where they're coming from. That yes, we do place Jesus higher than man.
Yeah.
But normally, if you ask myself or a president in those days, we would say, no, this is Catholics. They believe Jesus is God. We don't. We believe him just to be the Son of God. But still, there was many questions about Jesus, what was unfulfilled in me. And this book, this was now, like I say, opening up more ways. And so I wanted to read more about Islam. And I think one of the early books I read after that was Excellent Exemplar by Sir Muhammad Zafullah Khan, about the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And I remember that I was reading this book and saying to my brother, look, these people, they fought, and there was only 300 of them fighting 1,000, and he's saying, no, it can't be happening. I said, no, it's written here, it must be true. And so when I started reading about the Holy Prophet's life, again that inspired me, and everything about him was good to me, and I wanted that. It was making it more interesting. So, I don't know, Christianity just didn't appeal to me, right. But Islam did appeal, and so it drew me to Islam.
Right. So from then, what did you do? What was your next step?
Well, then obviously the first thing is you find out about the different sects in Islam. Now again, most English people believe that Islam is one. Right. And once you start looking into Islam, then you find there's this mess. There's so many different groups as such. So I didn't want any of that. I just wanted to be a Muslim and follow the Holy Quran as best as I can. But in my mind I was thinking, if I had to join a group, then I'll join this group, the Ahmadiyya group, because I liked what Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the Promised Messiah, and Imam Mahdi had written. And so if I was going to join a group, it was that group. The more I started reading, then obviously it becomes clear to you that Ahmadiyyat is the right way, and unfortunately other Muslims have lost their way as such. Now I remember my brother, he went to university, and after university he was lost for a little while what to do. He didn't want to do the career that he studied in university, and we had to practically drag him out and say, look, just find a job. So he became a security guard for the Iranian embassy. Now, that was just before the siege of the Iranian embassy, and he was a security guard there. Now, when they found out that his brother was studying Islam, they were very, very happy, and they treated him different to the other security guards. But when they found out that I was studying Ahmadiyyat, then they piled him with loads of books and said, look, give them these books, they'll guide him onto the right path. Right. So it shows that even at that time, I was swaying more to the Ahmadiyya point of view. But slowly, obviously I started trying to do different things. So the first thing, of course, was prayer. I remember asking my friend that, I don't know what I was thinking, but why? How do you pray? So I was given the Salat book, and I was shocked that there's all these different positions and different words to learn. So again, I said, I don't know what was on my mind, but I started to pray. And then fast Ramadan came. And so I thought I wanted to try this experience because I was into new experiences at that time. So I felt I would like to try fasting. And although it was like this time, the longer stays, I found it very easy. But after 1 week, my mother put a lot of pressure on me and said, you're wasting away, you've got to stop. So I fasted for 1 week, and then I left it for 1 week. And then I said, no, I'm going to fast again. So I fasted for another week. And then again, my mother started putting pressure on me, so I left it. So for the first few years, that's what I did. 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off. And so I started practicing more and more Islam over the years.
Now, at what point did you decide to do the initiation to actually become an Ahmadi?
Well, yes. First thing was coming to the mosque. That was the last stage. By that time, I felt I'd been a Muslim. I was an Ahmadi Muslim. I regarded myself as an Ahmadi Muslim. Yeah. But I was still unsure, were they going to accept me? I was white. So, I knew that most of the people, they were not English. So would they accept me? So this became a stumbling block. Right. And I keep thinking I'm going to go, and I was saying to my friends, and they're saying, we'll come with you. I said, no, I'm going to do this myself. But I still wasn't going to the mosque. So that year, I fasted throughout the month of Ramadan. And every day I keep feeling I will go to the mosque, and every day I found a reason. So finally, I decided to go on Eid. And this time, I took a day off work. Now, as I said, in those days, I was still quite materialistic. And so taking a day off work was losing a lot of money. So therefore, that gave me that incentive to go. I said, I was still backing out, but I said, well, I'm losing work now. Let me go. So that was before the Khalifa, the fourth Khalifa had come. This was back in 1980. It was Eid in 1983. So I parked outside the London Mosque, and I waited and saw a family coming. I don't know what I was thinking, but it's a trick that I used to do when I was young, that you just join a group as if you're part of that group. So I joined with this family as if I was part of this family. Obviously, they were Asian, I was white. It was obvious I wasn't. But anyway, that brought me into the mosque. And then I went straight into the London Mosque. And I sat myself down. Now, in those days, Sheikh Mubarak Ahmad, he was the Imam of the London Mosque. And alhamdulillah, he did it in English. So first, of course, the prayers started. So I got up for prayers. And of course, they did the 7 takbirs. And I thought, oh no, I've been praying wrong. So then in the back of my mind, I thought, maybe there's something different about Eid prayers. So anyway, I carried that on, and then I listened to the khutbah. And then afterwards, suddenly everyone stood up and started hugging each other. I thought, oof, what have I got myself into? What is this? And I was thinking, what's this craziness? Everybody was hugging each other. Suddenly someone put their hand on my shoulder, and I jumped a mile. So I So I said to them that, what's going on? Why are they hugging each other? So they said it's the joy of the day and they're just embracing. And then he introduced me to the Imam and introduced me to many people. And when I came outside the London Mosque, of course, I didn't know that in Mahmuda Hall and a tent, there were so many other worshippers. Right. And there was all these people around. So it was a wonderful day. And they piled me with a load of books. And then I went back to another person's house. I met another English person who was studying there.
Right.
And then from then on, I attended weddings, functions, whatever they asked me to. Yeah. I thought I was an Ahmadi Muslim. What happened was one time I was around my friend's house, I went on Eid Day, and Nadeem Maliki's name was, and there was an English person, Muzaffar Clark. He told me that he's just done the Bayat. I said, Bayat? What is the Bayat? Initiation. So he said, well, you have to join the community. Yeah. So I said, okay, well, give me a form. So Nadeem was very wary. He said, no, you should study. I said, look, if I knew about how to sign a form, I would have signed it years ago. Yeah. Bring me the form. And I was getting upset with him. Why aren't you bringing me this form? Bring me this form. So finally, he brought me the form. So then I met Sheikh Mubarak and did the bat with Sheikh Mubarak. And he used to be the Imam in charge of Africa a long time ago. And of course, the Christians, missionaries, when anybody converted to Christianity, they gave him a Christian name. So it was his habit that he would give a Muslim name. So when I was doing the Bayat, doing the Shahadat, he suddenly said, right, your name is now Tahir. I said, sorry. So I came out shocked and I said to my friend, what's happened? So he said, you're giving a Muslim name. So he told me that the Tahir, it means pure. So I thought, okay, that's quite nice. That's nice. So I kept my surname and I changed my first name. And so now, finally, I was regarded as an Ahmadi Muslim, although I used to.
How old were you at this time?
This would be 1983, so I would have been 24.
So then it went on.
Yeah.
And what happened after your family knew that you were now an Ahmadi Muslim? Did you have any problems?
They were not happy, but they were accepting it until I changed my name. And when I changed my name, my mother went spare. She got very upset. And I was saying to her, look, you initially wanted to call me Antonio. Antonio was an Italian dancer. And she wanted me to be named after this Italian dancer, but the church wouldn't allow her. And so she had to give the name Anthony. But she hated the name Anthony. So she always called me Tony. So I said, look, you had christened me as Anthony, but you always call me Tony. So it's a name change. But still, this was a big issue. So it wasn't a problem. I said, look, you call me Tony. But I went to work and I put a label here and wrote Tahir. And I said to my work colleagues that you can call me any name you want. But if you want me to respond, you call me Tahir. And so they quickly started accepting that. So the new people, they started calling me by my Muslim name. My family and old friends, fine, they could call me by my Christian name.
Right. Okay. Now you went on to Jamia to study religion properly in Pakistan.
That's right.
What made you take this decision?
Right, well, as I said, I joined the community in '83. Now, I used to then go to the Southall Mosque. There was one person in the Southall Mosque, he's passed away now, a very nice man, Mr. Hamid. And he used to take me to a cafe, and we used to chat, and he used to always keep talking about the Jalsa Salana. The Jalsa Salana in Pakistan, you must go. And unfortunately, I'd just been to Tunisia and I'd just been to Canada, and I said, well, I wish I could, but I can't afford to go. But I liked hearing his stories, and he used to tell me about the Jalsa and how wonderful it was. As I said, my father passed away the year before. Now suddenly some money came through. We wasn't expecting it, it was a work pension, we didn't know anything about it. But suddenly some money came through. And I thought, well, that's a shame. If I had this money earlier, I would have gone to Pakistan. Well, some of the people there in Southall, they worked at Heathrow Airport. So they said, look, if you want to go, we'll get you a ticket, no problem. Yeah. So I said, okay, get me a ticket. So I went very late, so late that I missed the Qadian Jalsa. Yeah. And I just got there just before the Pakistan Jalsa happened, and that was in 1983. There was 250,000 people from all over the world that attended that Jalsa. And part of it was that there were many African students who were studying to be missionaries. They come from Africa, they studied in Africa, and the top people had come to Pakistan to get a further degree. So I'd heard a little bit about Jamia, but I hadn't taken it serious. But now I started meeting these African students, and I started prizing information from them, because the only thing at that time that really interested me was religion. I worked, but that was just for money. But religion had caught a hold of me, and that was my whole life. So in the back of my mind, I was thinking that I've done many bad things in my life. This is a good way to win God's pleasure. And so I started asking them questions and finding out more and more about what Jamia is. But still, I didn't commit myself. I wanted to go home and see what everybody else felt. But I'd, in my mind, felt that I wanted to go to Jamia. The problem was, of course, I was old at that time. I was, I'd say, 24, very new. I was only about 3 months into the Jamaat, the community, and not well educated. So I didn't think they would accept me, but it was my desire. So I started asking my family. I didn't tell my mother because I didn't think, as I said, I would be accepted. I didn't want to upset her for no reason. But my stepfather, my brothers, and so on and so forth. So they all said, look, it's your life. Do what you want. I said, well, this is what I want. So then I wrote a letter to Hazur and posted it to Hazur. And fortunately, Hazur, alhamdulillah, accepted my application and told me to come to Jamia in September 1984.
From then on?
Well, you know what happened in 1984. In 1984, Hazur came to England. So I met Hazur, of course, at the 1983 Jalsa. I was very fortunate, in fact. I met him twice, but one time was a personal mulaqat, one was a group mulaqat. With the personal mulaqat, my time to come, the time had run out, and it was prayer time. So they said, come back after prayer. So now the mulaqat time had finished, so Hazur was free. At that time, he was only giving a minute, 2 minutes if you're lucky. But now I had about 10 minutes with Hazur. And Hazur said to me that you go back and you motivate the youth. I thought, thank you. So this was a duty he tasked me. So I came back and I started motivating the youth, getting them to come to the mosque and so on and so forth. So then, of course, because of the persecution in Pakistan and in the ordinance that they decreed us to be non-Muslims, so it was felt that Hazur, being Khalifa, the spiritual leader for the whole world, if he spoke anything about Islam, then they wanted to arrest him and kill him. This was the whole real purpose behind the audience. And so they advised him that you leave Pakistan. So Hazur said that I'm not going to leave if there is a warrant for my arrest. But at that stage, there was no warrant for his arrest. And alhamdulillah, I think you know the story, but I'll tell a story for the viewers, that he travelled to Karachi. Now, Ziaul Haq, the president of Pakistan, had given instructions that do not allow the head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community to leave. But he wrote Hazrat Mirza Nasir Ahmad, the third Khalifa, instead of Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad, the fourth Khalifa. I don't know what happened to that person once Zia found out, but anyway, so Hazur came to this country. So that was, I could say, in 1984. I was very fortunate that I was told when he was coming, so I attended the very first meeting.
Yeah, I'm not cutting you short, but I just wanted to tell the viewers, about your personal journey, how you moved to become a missionary of the community now.
Okay, so as I said, Hazur came to this country. I had a few months with Hazur, but then I went to Pakistan. So in 1984, in September, I went to Pakistan, and there I studied for 4 years, and studied with many African brothers, especially from Ghana, and they were very close friends of mine. And alhamdulillah, it was a wonderful time. And then after 4 years, I came and I've served in the UK since.
Now, would you be able to tell the viewers, what you see as the differences between the non-Ahmadi Muslims and the Ahmadi Muslims?
Right, well, I mean, what I normally say is that the difference between us and the Holy Prophet, there is no difference. But the difference between us and our Muslims, there are many differences. And people should think about that. What it means is that, unfortunately, Islam today is not practicing the true Islam.
Right.
So actually, I run 2 courses. I have many brothers and sisters from Africa doing the course. So one, I'm going to plug it now. So one is free-islamic-course.org, and it's a free course to learn about Islam.
Right.
And that teaches the true teachings of Islam.
Right.
And the other one is whyahmadi.org, and that teaches about the differences between Ahmadis and non-Ahmadis.
Right.
So in that, I explain many of the differences.
Right.
Now, to give one example, for instance, the whole Muslim world, what happened, I think it was 1978 or something like this. No, it must have been later than that. But anyway, the Ayatollah made a fatwa on someone Farsi.
Yeah.
And he declared that he has blasphemed. And the punishment, according to the Holy Quran, was death. The whole of the Muslim ulama, the whole Muslim leaders, all agreed to this.
Salman Rushdie.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
In his book, Satanic Verses.
Yeah.
So this would have been when I came back, so 88, not 78, 88 I think it was. So this fatwa was decreed there, and it's still ongoing, as you know.
Yeah.
Now, according to that fatwa, he has blasphemed. According to the Holy Quran, the punishment is death. And we have challenged all the Muslim world to show us any verse in the Holy Quran which allows you to kill someone for blasphemy.
Yeah.
It's not there.
No.
All the Holy Quran teaches is if you don't like what someone's saying, you move away.
Yeah.
And that way you're not offended.
Sure.
If they change the subject, you can come back. But nowhere in the Holy Quran it allows you to kill.
Yeah.
So here, the Muslim leaders, these are the people who should be guiding Muslims properly. The Muslim leaders, all of them, agreed that the Holy Quran declares death as a penalty. So this is one difference. There are many differences that we point out,
Right.
where unfortunately the Muslim leaders are misguiding the Muslims. We have nothing wrong with the Muslims, it's the leadership.
Yeah.
They should be guiding properly. And that's their responsibility. Just like for myself as a missionary, it's my duty to guide the people properly.
Yeah.
So this is where we feel that they're failing.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are coming to the end of our program.
All right,
Is there a message that you would like to give to the viewers? Because there will be some who are maybe in your past situation and they may be having doubts. Would you have to say anything to them?
Of course, for all those brothers and sisters in Africa, I know they're going through a lot of trials and tribulations. There's so many difficulties there. And the main thing through any trial and tribulation is to turn to God. And so they should pray to God, because at the moment the world's going in 2 different directions. Either it's heading for another 3rd World War, and that could be nuclear, and who knows what's going to happen after that. Or the alternative is to turn to God. So no one should want to go in this direction, nuclear war. So if they want true peace, true inner peace, the answer is to turn to God, remain steadfast through these trials and tribulations. And if they do that, then inshallah they will find that peace and God will guide them to the truth. So this is what we hope and pray for all the brothers in Africa and all the sisters in Africa, that they do find that peace and comfort from God.
Thank you very much for sharing your story with us,
Pleasure.
Brother Tahir. Now, dear viewers, this is all we have time for. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Rasulullah